Hello, everybody. Zon gets 134 here.
And I'm Average Show Squad, as always.
Welcome to another Spider-Miss episode of Remember the Hyphen. I almost forgot what the name of our show was.
If you fucking recall it, review the Hyphen again. I'm gonna die. Because it's still probably one of the funniest step-ups.
No.
Because you said it so confidently.
and none of us caught it. Because, they're just like, yeah, that's the name of the show. Review the Hyphen.
Remember the Hyphen or fucking else.
I still need to get that up. I forgot that's on my phone.
That was funny as hell.
So, yeah, once again, it's Spider-Miss. And, well, we decided, we did this for Batman. We might as well do this for Spidey, too. We're going to look at the very first appearance of Spider-Man in Amazing Fantasy number 15. Now, obviously,
These are not the actual issues.
Yeah, because
these are reprints.
Because
I don't have that kind of money.
Yeah, because I want to say Amazing goes for,
a lot of money.
Almost
the funny
almost
thing
$1 million.
is, I couldn't find these at first.
Yeah, I thought
I had sleeved them with all my other ones.
Yeah.
Even because I have reprints from when I was a kid that I've sleeved.
Yeah.
Couldn't find these. I almost cracked open still in the plastic one that's in the collector's edition of the first Raimi movie. Okay. Because I sat there and thought about it, do I want to crack that open?
No, especially because
that would hurt the value on that.
Yeah, that would definitely hurt the value, especially that. So
yeah, I did find these finally.
These are actually this is a newspaper giveaway because back in 2006,
I have a whole bunch of those.
Yeah,
too.
they redid they just bundled issues of the first issue of Amazing, and I think the first
they got up to 22.
Oh, the first, yeah.
Those are the ones I have. The latest I know is issue 22, so they maybe went higher than that. I don't know.
Basically, they did a bunch of issues of Amazing, the original run of Amazing Spider-Man, mostly the Ditko Raimi stuff or Ditko Lee stuff.
The Incredible Winnable Car. I wonder if that offer's still good. So I want to get a Mustang GT.
What's funny about these is a lot of the issues were actually split in half. But I know this because I remember the issue where the issue with the living brain where Peter gets into a boxing match with Flash.
Yeah.
Is split into two parts for some reason.
They probably did that just to kind of stretch it out, maybe.
Well, that and probably because it's easier to. I think they have to up the price on newspapers whenever they put special stuff in them. So splitting these in half probably kept the cost lowered. But if I remember correctly, this is the full Amazing in here. Because the original Amazing issue is very short. As he has here, this is actually... I actually didn't know this.
This came in one of the Toy Biz figures.
Yeah, but this actually has the full Amazing Fantasy, which isn't just
it doesn't. It not only has Spidey's first appearance, it's also got the other two side stories in it, which are just kind of weird.
Yeah. So to give a little background on why Spider-Man's first appearance took place in Amazing Fantasy 15. After the success of the Fantastic Four, Stan wanted to make another hero. And with the idea, Stan had the concept. Basically, he wanted to make a superhero that dealt with life's everyday problems, like trying to keep money, trying to, make time with his family and friends, while also having this massive responsibility, which is something that Stan had done with other characters before. He, with Iron Man and his damaged body.
Even the FF have
even the Fantastic Four.
Have a lot of those issues.
The Hulk.
The X-Men.
And
Daredevil can't fucking see.
And his Catholic guilt. Not about killing people, of course, but not about banging women, but,
I'm about to say, Matt, this isn't time for the fucking Catholic guilt.
Which I always love that. He feels guilty about killing people, not so much about the unwedded sex. Not that I'm like a Puritan or anything like that. It's just, I'm like, you can't feel mad about one and not the other, man. It don't work that way.
It's just some fucking irony.
And so Stan had the idea, I forget exactly where he came up with the idea for Spider-Man, but basically he wanted a hero. Well, actually, I think he went with Spider-Man because he knew people hated spiders.
I remember there was an interview where he brought that up.
And that's why he wanted to make, he wanted this hero to have the powers of a spider, A, because they're an interesting power set, and B, because he wanted to make the character have even more problems where the world at large fears him because of his abilities. Well, the current editor-in-chief at the time looked at Stan when he brought up the concept of Spider-Man and was like,
"Are you out of your fucking mind?"
Yeah, because he's like, no, people hate spiders. They're not going to want this character. To make matters worse, Peter, because a lot of people don't really, I don't think nobody talks about this a lot. Peter's technically the first teenage superhero. Because at that time, like, teenagers were not superheroes.
Yeah, they were like sidekicks.
They were
like
sidekicks,
Bucky
yeah.
Or...
Yeah, like Bucky or Aqualad or Robin or Speedy. A lot of times they had like Kid or Lad in the name, like Kid Flash,
Teen Titans for
Teen
for
Titans,
example.
Wonder Girl. But like most of the time, superheroes were not teenagers. In fact, I think Stan had a lot of issues because they were like, well, he's a kid, right? So his name's gonna be Spider Boy, and Stan actually like fought with that. He's like, no,
Because we're gonna let him grow up.
well, not only that, but like he is out there doing the things that like guys like Batman or Superman or other men with man in the title. He is Spider-Man. Like he deserves that in his name because he is as much of a hero as like anyone on the Avengers or the Fantastic Four. Which is actually, I think, why he puts the hyphen in the name. He actually was like, no, he's Spider-Man. And I'll fight any of you that says otherwise. I'm going to challenge one of you to a boxing match. Excelsior. I doubt Stan would have said that, but I could hear that in my head.
Remember the hyphen.
Remember the hyphen. We'll challenge you to a boxing match. We're like Uwe Boll. You don't like us, we'll challenge you to a boxing match like Uwe Boll. And so, you know, Stan kept up with the whole idea. You know, like I said, again, Fantastic Four helped with that.
I'm sorry, I'm dying at the ad in this.
Oh, for
Orlando.
for Orlando's Island of Adventure.
None of what you might think I'm dying at. Call for your free vacation planning video. Call free 1-888-372-7256.
Yeah, you can tell when this came out that my favorite part is not just just www.universalorlando.com.
Well, let's look at who's in this. We got Spidey, we got Wolverine, the Human Torch, the Hobgoblin, Silver Surfer, Hulk, and Doom.
When the Islands of Adventure got made, a lot of the Spider-Man stuff there was based off the animated series and the 90s animated series. So
it
they
makes
used
sense.
Hobgoblin. But anyway, getting back to my story. So the editor-in-chief at the time was like, all right, Stan, we'll give you Spider-Man. However, he's going to be one of the stories in Amazing Fantasy. And in fact, it was the last issue of Amazing Fantasy because I guess the sales for Amazing were not very good.
No.
And to be fair, from what I understand, it was an anthology series that really didn't have
It didn't really have a lot of star draw to it.
yeah. So Stan was like, all right. And so, you know, they put the first issue of, you know, Spider-Man in Amazing Fantasy to the point where it was the cover, which, fun fact, this is actually, the inner issue is actually drawn by Steve Ditko. The cover is actually drawn by Jack Kirby, which in my opinion, I think is actually why this sold as much as it did, not just because of Stan's story. Because, he got Kirby to draw this cover. And so, you know, they put this on the shelves, and they looked at the sales figures for this issue when it came out, and it sold like hotcakes. And the only thing they could figure out how it sold so well was because of this.
You're telling me it's not because of the Tobacco is Wacko ad?
First of all, that would not have been in the original issue. That's a 90s ad. This was made in the 60s.
I know. It's just I love when they would do modern reprints for the toys.
No, because
and they would just put the new ads in them, and it looks, it's so jarring.
Because imagine you're someone who likes reading old school comics. You're like, oh yeah, like I'm enjoying this old school comic.
And bam, juicy
and then
fruits.
and then this takes you completely out of I don't even understand why they put ads in these anyways. These are
the toy ones I can understand.
Well, yeah, the toy ones a little bit, but juicy, no one's buying
anti-tobacco.
I already bought a toy. I'm not. Okay, admittedly, the little thing to order that makes this dated right here.
I mean, let's look at what you could have gotten from this ad real quick. So, and it's divided into categories. So you got X-Men. So you got Cable, Deadpool, Uncanny X-Men, Wolverine, X-Force, just X-Men.
Yeah.
Then you have Marvel Ultimates, Ultimate Spider-Man, Ultimate X-Men, Ultimate Team Up, Ultimate Marvel Magazine, Spider-Man, Amazing Spider-Man, Peter Parker Spider-Man, Spider-Girl. Gotta give.
Which is kind of
gotta
funny
give my girl May some love.
Because at this point, like, Spider-Man was doing so bad, he only had 2 titles.
Marvel Heroes, Avengers, Captain America, Captain Marvel, Defenders, Daredevil, Fantastic Four, Hulk, Iron Man, Marvel Knights, Punisher, Thor, Thunderbolts.
Which
I want to say I actually did send one of these in because I did get Ultimate Spider-Man for a while.
I want to say I did too, because I think they were still using this when I started collecting Straczynski's Spider-Man run. So Amazing Fantasy got canceled, and in its place came The Amazing Spider-Man, which I do think that this was actually why that got the name. So since we got that out of the way, do you have anything to add to that history, or did I?
I'm pretty sure you got a spot on the money. I don't have the text I used to do my thesis open in front of me.
But, I think there are a lot of reasons why this issue did so well, as we'll go into when we're talking about the story. But right off the bat, let's talk about the cover.
I mean, that's an iconic cover.
Yeah,
To the point that when they made the black suit,
Yeah.
the official suit, I mean, I should have brought that one with me.
Yeah, I should have pulled that out. No, I've been dumb.
But yeah, because it's literally the same exact
Yeah.
title. I mean, same exact cover redrawn.
Yeah. Like to the point where, like, I think a lot of times when Peter does get new costumes that it's memorable,
Yeah,
they redo it like this a lot of the times. Not all the time, but
There's
a lot
one
of the time.
for the PS4 game, I believe.
Actually, in Enter the Spider-Verse, the issue that Miles reads when he realizes he's Spider-Man has this cover. Well, not exactly this cover, but
The Amazing Spider-Girl has the same thing.
Yeah.
Where it's May holding Peter, and it's kind of fucking humorous because that cover's in there, like the original one. But that's my title.
But I love this cover, and it's kind of funny that they still went with Kirby, because from what I understand, apparently Kirby just did this. He didn't know it was going to be used for Amazing 15, so he's like, "Where's my check?
Where's my fucking money?"
Which sadly Stan did a lot to Kirby. Like, and to be fair, like, I know people argue about this. To be fair, from what I understand, Stan and Kirby had buried the hatchet a long time ago.
Yeah.
Whether that's true or not, but I like, and as I always tell people, like, it's hard for me to be mad at Stan when that was how the business ran, A, and B, like, Stan, in my opinion, was at least much better at giving credit to other writers and artists than a lot of others did. He's certainly better than Bob Kane and Bill Finger, well, the Bob Kane-Bill Finger situation. But it's also funny because, like, this is the way Kirby draws Spider-Man. When we get into this, it's going to be Ditko, and Ditko draws Spider-Man a lot different. Like, this is more like how you would see Spider-Man like Gary Conway draws him.
Yeah.
Ditko's Spider-Man is much more gangly and kind of scary looking, in my opinion. Like, I think it's not until, again, like, Conway and Romita Sr. draw him where he starts being more like people know him, more or less. What are your thoughts on that?
I honestly never really noticed it. I mean, to me, they look pretty similar. I mean, you can definitely tell what's Kirby and what's Ditko, but I
think a lot of it is he draws Peter more gangly than, like, with more muscle build than, like, the athletic build like later artists draw him.
Yeah, definitely. Which I don't know. It never really made that big of a difference to me.
Maybe it's just because I read so much Spider-Man, I can kind of tell the difference. I don't know.
Yeah.
I think a lot of it also has to do with the eyes. Like, Kirby's eyes, those are more like the bigger eyes, like I like on the character.
Where these are kind of more like teardrop shapes.
Yeah, like Japanese Spider-Man's eye slits, which, to be fair, that works for Japanese Spider-Man, but, like, I'm just not a big fan of that with, like, other... Like, this Spider-Man here is more kind of what I like.
Yeah, that's kind of more what I think.
Like, I like having him with the big expressive eyepieces, even if, like, they cheat and, like, they draw it so that the eyes emote.
I think it's important to have different eyepieces.
Yeah, no, I
like
agree.
How, like, I mean, like, there are little tongue-in-cheek things to that.
Yeah.
One of the ones that comes to mind is and I'm gonna bring Spider-Girl up again. It's the issue where Electro and Electro's daughter show up.
Yeah.
And, you know, Electro's like, I want to talk to Spider-Man. So the Avengers then get Spider-Girl, and Electro's like, I said Spider-Man. I don't want Spider-Girl. So Spider-Girl, so May goes back and gets her dad, and her dad comes in, and he's just like, Electro, and like so they start talking. Electro remarks, he's like, I've met your daughter. She has your eyes.
Yeah, which I'm like, God damn it, Electro.
Which I always just took as like a tongue in cheek that
Yeah.
they have the same exact eyepieces, even though May's eyepieces are technically a little different.
Yeah, because they're Ben Reilly's eyepieces.
Yeah, so like they're a little bit wider.
Yeah. Which I think they did that on purpose because like they wanted to show how differently the character, like the design for Spider-Man. Because like with Peter, whenever he was in the Spider outfit in Spider-Girl, they made him look as like traditional Spider-Man as they could, just to further cement that he's older.
Yeah.
With May, with the 90s costume, they wanted to give her the 90s aesthetic.
Yeah.
Which meant that she had to look actually kind of different but getting off our tangent about Spider-Man's eyepieces, let's actually get into the story. So the story opens
with a Gogurt ad.
yeah, with a Gogurt ad, with showing us right off the bat our main character, and I love the whole like Peter with the silhouette of Spider-Man and the spider, up.
Kind of just it kind of reminds me. You know what it really reminds me of?
The Star Wars Episode 1 poster.
I was gonna say
that was actually what I was thinking. That was what I was thinking.
Episode 1 poster. Which I have that poster somewhere, I think.
And Peter is all like being mopey because Flash and his gang, which I think this is the first debut of Flash Thompson, and I want to say Liz, but I think that's actually Sally.
I think that's Liz.
Okay, because I know there was another girl that was also like Sally something or other.
I'm pretty sure that's Liz, though.
I'm pretty sure
it's been retconned.
Yeah, I think they might have had a different name for the first issue, but pretty much every issue after, no, that was Liz.
Yeah.
And so they're like, hey, we're having a dance tonight. We need another guy. Should we invite Peter? No, Peter's such a dork. Because, this is the 60s.
It's like, just stereotypical.
Yeah.
That bookworm wouldn't know a cha-cha from a waltz.
Because I'm Stan Lee, and I know how the children talk. And so, a lot of the early, first couple issues...
Back that up real quick.
Okay.
So that's recolored, actually.
Oh, yeah. Huh.
You can notice, because, Liz's dress is like a purple and pinkish.
Yeah, and not only that, this is just straight yellow, and that's got yellow, orange, and red.
I wonder if this is more accurate. This has to be more accurate.
I wouldn't be surprised if that's more accurate, because like you said, this is a straight reprinting of the entirety of...
Yeah, so it wouldn't surprise me.
I'm
gonna keep noticing that as we keep looking through here.
The first couple pages is...
Look at Flash's sweater.
Yeah, what the hell?
Fucking inverted. What is this shit?
What?
That's fucking orange. These people that's
God.
green. What
oh my
is
god! Because
bro, this recoloring is ass. What is this?
Especially because yours is so much.
Liz's colors are different there too.
Because yours is so much nicer looking because it's not digital print. Because when they reprint,
I don't mind when they do that, but my thing is when they do that, do the original color.
Yeah, do the original color. Don't digital repaint.
Yeah, don't repaint it. I've noticed they do that with I've noticed a couple things online where they do that. Yeah. It is so glaring to people that actually know that that's not what it's supposed to look like.
And so we open on showing how typical Peter is. He's woken up by his Uncle Ben and his Aunt May, which the first introduction to Peter, one of Peter's favorite foods, Aunt May's wheat cakes. That's not even me making a joke, because the wheat cakes come up a lot. When him and Mary Jane got married, I think
Annie doesn't like him.
Well, Annie doesn't like him, and when they were newlyweds, I think they stayed with Aunt May at one point, or it was a holiday, and she made wheat cakes for Peter, and Mary Jane was eating them. She's like, I don't really get why you like these so much, Peter. These are old people food.
I don't think May likes them either. I'm not sure. I'd have to go back and actually look in my issues of Spider-Girl, but I don't think May likes them.
Yeah,
either.
I think Peter's the only one in that family that likes them. And from what I understand, wheat cakes are just pancakes, but they're made with wheat flour instead of traditional flour.
Yeah.
But getting off the wheat cake thing, basically, we see that he's loved by his uncle and aunt like they're his own because, he he doesn't have parents. I don't think they bring up that he doesn't have parents, just that he lives with his aunt and uncle, and you kind of can infer
just
that he doesn't
assume.
have parents.
Yeah.
But, Peter doesn't mind because, like, Aunt May and Uncle Ben, take care of him very well. And we also see that he's loved by the teachers because he's very bright. He wants to be a science major when he graduates. But the other problem is, because he's dorky and shy and dresses like an asshole. Like, I know that this is actually how teenagers dressed in the 60s, but my God.
Who we talking? We talking about Flash?
Well, I'm talking about Peter.
It's like an asshole.
Well, because he's got he goes to
Bro, that's
school.
how people dress.
I know.
What are you talking
I know.
about? I'll have to show
Yeah,
you
but like
that
none
old-
of the other guys do. Like they wear like at least they wear their button-ups. Not like they don't wear vests. Like vests never look cool. I'm sorry, they never have.
That's why they put him in there. He's
I
not
know.
supposed to look cool.
I know, but like
I don't understand where you're going with it.
I'm just like always he's nerdy and dorky. He's also dressed like
Like a douchebag.
like
Is that
yeah,
what you're trying
like
to tell me?
yeah,
He looks a douchebag?
like a rich upper crust douchebag. Despite the fact you don't have the money for that.
Yeah.
Which I know I'm weird because I know Peter's not like that. I'm just saying how he's dressed does not help. But basically he's trying to ask this girl out. Here's the Sally I was
Well,
talking
here's
about.
that's still not Liz because this chick's got black hair and then the other one's yellow. That's obviously Liz.
Yeah, I thought there was a Sally, but I might be mixing
It's
it up
been
with
forever
something
since
else.
I read this, so I didn't know if I was in the right
Well,
order.
then, like,
so.
Peter's had so many girlfriends, I can't fucking keep them together in my head. Peter asks her out, she's just like, nah, you're not my type. I like guys like Flash. And
I don't want to fight you, Flash.
I wouldn't want to fight me either. To be fair, Flash is like a musclehead doofus, but like he's not nearly as bad as like the movies paint him.
Yeah.
Like, yeah, he picks on Peter, but that's more because, and to be fair, this happens a lot with Peter in his younger years that, oh yeah, they
I don't understand the recolors.
but yeah, basically, Peter wants to try and get friends to come with him to this science exhibit, which when we get to the science exhibit, like this is the only thing in my opinion that dates this origin, and it's the only thing that has to be changed. Everything
Science
else can,
hall.
but like,
You stick to science, son. We'll take the chicks.
Yeah, which I'm like,
damn.
yeah, and then when Peter is like 25 and has a decent job, and you guys
We're living in the trailer.
they're
Talking about Faylene.
talking about Faylene, but
Somewhere Riley's like, you people are fucking animals.
we are.
What is your fixation with Faylene?
And so they, of course, no one goes with him because when you're 16 and you like science, you get picked on a lot. Trust me, I know.
Hell, even when you like music and you're 16, you get picked on.
Yeah, and basically, Peter goes to the hall and. What he says here has kind of a rougher connotation nowadays. The whole, someday I'll show them, someday they'll be sorry that they laughed at me. I'm like,
Are you telling me there's a reality where Peter's a school shooter?
well, to be fair, there is an issue of Amazing in Straczynski's run where he deals with a school shooter.
I know.
And he's like, that could have been me at one point. I mean,
Like, damn.
like, I'm not like trying to make light of that, but like, when you read that, like,
yeah,
but like,
it just hasn't aged very well.
neither does the science experiment that they're doing, which is an open air radiation experiment. Because 60s, and no one knew that radiation causes tumors.
And a few minutes later, Peter Parker forgets the taunts of his classmates as he is transported to another world, the fascinating world of atomic science.
Because it wouldn't be a Marvel character without radiation being involved of some sort.
Is this gamma radiation?
Well, this is before Stan Lee invented mutants, where everyone's just a mutant. But as let's just read this, because this is like some great dialogue. As the experiment begins, no one notices a tiny spider descending from the ceiling on an almost invisible strand of web. A spider whom fate has given a starring, if brief, role to play in the drama we call life. Accidentally absorbing a fantastic amount of radioactivity. The dying insect, in sudden shock, bites the nearest living thing at the split second before life ebbs from its radioactive body. And of course, Peter gets the bitten by a radioactive spider thing, the thing that everyone remembers.
Oh, a spider. It bit me. But why is it burning so? Why is it glowing that way? Well, Peter, no shit. You're at a radiation experiment.
What I like to let's talk about how the art doesn't really explain how the spider managed to get this close to him? Like, look at how far away he is from that thing. Look how far away he is from the radiation beam. Like, the spider must have gained magic leaping powers just thanks to absorbing that radiation.
I guess.
Or Peter is much closer to this thing. Now, to be fair, there is one version of this that changes it in a bad way. So, in the late 90s, early 2000s, when they wanted to
Is it that Oscorp owns it?
No, I'm not talking about
Like,
Ultimate.
remember that argument in Ultimate?
Yeah.
Is that fucking Norman's like, I own you? I'm like, that's
So
not
I'm
really
like,
how that works.
yeah, that wouldn't even work in real life because they'd be like,
They'd throw that out of court,
well,
I think.
like, you mean the spider that you had no control over that caused an accident that mutated this poor child?
And that I'm sure violated a couple OSHA standards and probably a couple safety regs.
What I was actually talking about was Spider-Man Chapter 1, the one where they...
I need to get that still, but because I think they just recently reprinted that.
Because I actually remember my mom got me that, and I thought it was like a reprinting of this. It's so not.
Yeah, it's a
But
complete reimagining.
in this version...
They bring it up in the DeFalco guide too, don't
Yeah,
they?
they do. Because at that point, they were trying to say that was the reboot for Chapter 1. Or for... Nowadays, it's not canon at all. But basically, in that version, the people that are running the radiation experiment is one Dr. Otto Octavius.
Yeah.
And not only does Peter get bitten by a radioactive spider...
the lab blow up?
Yeah, the lab blows up, and only him and Doc Ock survive. But
And that's the one that gives off the arm.
Yeah.
Right?
But like...
Yeah, forgive me. I've never read.
They were in the midst of an atomic explosion. Peter getting bitten by the radioactive spider is the least of his problems. He's now radioactive.
Yeah.
Like, which...
It's like some Chernobyl shit going on.
How no one figures out that Peter's Spider-Man in Chapter 1 makes any goddamn sense.
I think that's why it's not canon. It doesn't make any fucking sense.
Everyone would know. Especially when Doc Ock comes on the scene. They're both victims of this explosion.
Would know immediately, probably.
Well, not only that, but like, this explosion was put in the news.
Yeah.
Like, it's not like here where it's just a spider. Like, no one noticed the spider getting in the ray.
Yeah.
And B, it just bit this kid. And so, Peter goes home, and as he's going home, he feels like,
Feels like shit.
Yeah. But it's a little bit different than the Raimi film. Like, here he doesn't, pass out for, 24 hours. Here it almost instantaneously mutates him. And so, basically, as Peter's walking, he doesn't notice he stumbled into, the road and almost gets hit by a car. Well, he senses the car hitting him, almost about to hit him, and he leaps, I want to say, 20, 30 feet in the air?
Yeah.
And sticks to a wall. And he's like, I'm sorry, what?
Excuse me?
Okay, what's going on here? And so he climbs up the wall.
Well, you see what's happening is all these little hairs are coming out of his head.
Well, to be fair, they've never, in the comics, explained how it works. I think they've tried to explain that, Peter has, a magnetic ability. To be honest, I go by the Raimi.
Yeah, the Raimi one makes the most sense.
Yeah, and so, which I also love, this poor kid knowing the 60s probably got smacked. This kid's like, Mommy, look at the man walking up the building. That's the last horror movie I take you to, young man. No one 60s, it's, spare the rod, spoil the child. So they
slip her to the fucking head immediately.
Yeah, no. And so Peter climbs up the building, and not only can he leap really far, climb up walls.
Crushes the pipe like
Yeah,
paper.
he crushes it, and this
like
is
it's paper.
Yeah, this is a lead pipe. Lead is an incredibly durable piece of thing. And so Peter, being the brilliant kid he is, he's like, that spider must have somehow transferred its abilities to me, and so basically they display what powers you'd get. He can walk down a cable like he were a spider. So let's talk about his powers and just kind of, I think, what makes them so interesting, just so we can kind of
I would say the biggest thing for me in comparison to heroes we'd seen prior, like the Fantastic Four or Captain America or Superman, these are powers you can hide pretty fucking easily.
They're fantastical, but
they're pretty you can hide them. You know, you can't. They're not totally out there like the Human Torch.
Yeah.
Or Reed Richards or the Thing. You can blend in if you have these.
And so. The only one I think that he has trouble with is his spider sense, because the spider sense is actually autonomous. It's like, there's an issue where Mary Jane is like trying to sneak up on him and throw a pillow at his head, and literally Peter completely dodges out of the way. Which I love. Mary Jane's like, you felt threatened by the pillow? He's like, sorry, honey, I literally can't control. Like, no one can sneak up on Peter. Unless, of course, like, they have, like, a chemical that can dull his senses. And so, Peter, and here this, for those of you that know the movie, this is where it starts, like, the original Raimi film, this is where it starts to kind of be the same, but not.
Up and away with it.
Well, we're getting there. Here, Peter's, like, doesn't want to try and get money for a car. Here, Peter actually enters this wrestling thing because
It's a good chance to test my power.
yeah. He literally is like, this. I need to know how like what my capabilities are. So like, so obviously I'll just pick a fight with some dude. And here we see a lot of the differences between this scene and the Raimi scene from the wrestling film. First of all, he doesn't have in my opinion, the much cooler human spider costume. Here it's literally just like a sweatshirt, gym pants, and
like a mask.
Like, I'm pretty sure he wore one of Aunt May's stockings. That is literally one of Aunt May's stockings that he just wrapped around his head like a bank mugger.
Probably.
And so he goes up and wrestles a guy, not Bonesaw McGraw, but Crusher Hogan. They actually had to change the name for the movie because they didn't want to get sued by Hulk Hogan because Hulk Hogan's kind of a jackass.
Well, they had Muscle Man Randy Savage.
Well, then they had Muscle Man Randy Savage. Ain't no way I'm going to be named after that jabroni.
Fuck you, Hogan.
Yeah, well, at that point.
Like that kind of shit.
And not only that, Spider-Man gets his money. Because...
I need that money, man.
Well, the guy running this ain't stupid enough
to say, I missed the part where that's my problem.
Well, yeah, because look what this guy does. Peter literally is like half the size of this man. And he's effortlessly picking him up like he weighs nothing. I would not mess with a man that could do that. I would not shirk this man of his money. And again, here we see much more differences. Here, Peter's actually picked out by a TV producer who's like, this dude's got like...
God damn, the recoloring is fucking killing me, bro. It's killing me.
I know.
That's all I got to look at.
And so, none of that, like, yours has so many different pages, like, and this has almost no ads, that it's literally just the issue, but basically this producer's like, I could get you on TV. We can make you so much money by showing off your powers. And Peter here is just like, I could get that money. I could go to college. I could...
Not just any TV show. Call me. You'd be smashed on Ed Sullivan.
Oh, yeah, he's on Ed Sullivan, which again, something that really dates us. I'm pretty sure normal show would be like, oh, I was on the Tonight Show. They wouldn't
Jerry
say...
Springer.
Or Jerry Springer.
Sorry.
It's okay. And so, basically, Peter's like, all right, I can get this money. I can give some of this to Uncle Ben and Aunt May, who've taken care of me, and I can put some of it away to college. And I can become a star. And so, Peter, because this is the 60s and men know how to sew, makes his own costume.
I mean, I know how to sew, but I'm pretty rare, I guess.
Well, that because, like, thanks to, like, modern, industry, like, we don't really have a need to learn that skill because we can just replace our clothes instead of having to sew them because it's the Depression.
Worked out in college because I had to sew some buttons for some people.
Like, not that I'm saying, like sewing is still a great skill. It's just, thanks to technology and progress, we kind of don't think about that as much anymore. Mm-hmm. It's become more of a hobby than a necessary.
Yeah.
And so he makes this costume, which, as much as I'm proud of Peter knowing how to sew, I still don't know if I could believe a 16-year-old boy could just sew this costume.
Like, the human spider one makes sense.
Yeah.
Because, like, I mean, you saw what I did. I made that with just spray paint and electrical tape.
Yeah, like, it's easy to make. And, I could believe Peter designing it like how he draws it in the movie and paying someone to make the suit. Here,
ironically, the brother of Bonesaw makes him the suits in the Raimi trilogy. That's based on the novel.
And here we see another variation, because in this, Peter didn't get organic web shooters from the spider bite. He built the web shooters.
Which they were going to put in the Raimi trilogy, but they ended up changing it. There actually is still some test footage of of that with the web shooters that does exist. I think
Well,
it's out on
I think a
YouTube.
lot of it is because they really did follow a lot of the script ideas James Cameron had for making this Spider-Man, which one day we will get to that treatment because
We got to read the 500-page Mario Puzo Superman script too at some point. Which, God, that's gonna be like reading a damn book.
I'm worrying more about that for season 3. Remember the Hyphen? But it's kind of funny. Like he just decides to make the web shooters. Like I kind of like in the Ultimate line where Peter wanted to complete this formula his father was wanting to make about like this super powerful stretchy like polymer, and that like the spider bite kind of gave him intrinsic knowledge on how to produce webbing, and he used that knowledge to help complete the formula. Like I kind of like more like it explains just why. Like and here Peter just builds them and like makes the web fluid, which here he calls liquid cement.
It's also interesting too because bringing up Spider Girl yet again. There's the way the powers transferred to Peter's offspring. You know, May doesn't have organic webbing, but Benji does.
Yeah, but Benji does. Well, that and like Annie, if you like, she has like the future sense that Kane did. Like almost like her powers are going to become like Kane's, where like they're kind of powered up. And did we get past the part where he says only a science major could make something like this? Oh, did we?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Yeah. Only a science major could create a device like this. That's one of like Carr's favorite running gags with Peter, where Peter does something really boneheaded or stupid. He's like, only a science major could think of something like this. Which also this shows like what, because like in comics everyone's just a science major, despite the fact that like okay, that's great. What science are you good at? Like with Peter, it's biochemistry clearly because like
metaphysics.
Yeah, metaphysics. Like the only scientist.
Atomic energy.
Yeah, like the only scientist I approve of being just a scientist is Reed fucking Richards, and that's because he is like the smartest motherfucker in the world.
He can like do anything.
Like he literally can do anything. Or like T'Challa, because like he's also just really good at science. And so we come to part 2, which I love old school comics, and they always had to have like parts, despite the fact that you're just reading the story.
The recoloring of that's ass. Hold on, the recoloring of that's fucking shit compared to the original Splash.
Well, yeah, because here they clearly didn't even fill in any of the color.
Yeah.
And so Spider-Man debuts on TV, and he shows off some tricks.
I'm seeing it with my own eyes, and I still don't believe
it. I love his producer. He's like, okay, Spider-Man, cut, that's enough. Don't show him too much. Leave him begging for more. And then, like, these guys come up, like, this dude's, like, from Life magazine's, like wanting to, like, pay for a picture spread. And so basically, you know, Peter...
Sign with me, I'll put you in the movies.
Yeah, and so Peter's like, you know, talk to my agent, I'm busy. And so he has to get home because he's 15. And yes, he is 15. They explicitly state his age is 15. I think nowadays he's 28, maybe 30.
Then we get into the infamous...
Oh.
Stop that guy, he's got my money!
Yeah. Which here is, it's a security guard chasing after a thief. And here it's not because Peter is, like, wanting revenge on a guy or this dude wouldn't let him buy his chalky milk.
He's like, I look out for
like, well, it's not even like it's, like, completely, like
an
asshole.
Move?
He's just like the security guard's like, why didn't you stop him? You could have easily done so. He's like,
sorry,
dude,
pal, that's your job.
That's your job. Like, I'm not getting, like, I'm a star. I don't, and like, it's not even like it's completely rude. It's just,
I ought to run you in. Save your breath, buddy. I got things to do.
Like, cause like, Peter, like, that's like something like anybody would have said. Like, if you or I were like a guy was running past us with a gun, would you try to stop him?
Fuck no.
No.
That's how you get killed like Uncle Ben in the Amazing Spider-Man movies. That's how you get fucking shot for just not minding your own business.
Well, then being a dumbass and alerting the guy knowing that he literally was just like, gun! I'm like,
bro,
for all you know, he could have a permit for that. Relax.
Like, Jesus, man.
And so, like, you know, and then, of course, like a few hours later,
God, when we actually review those movies, it's gonna be like the Nolan. It's just gonna be us banging on these movies for like.
Well, especially because we're gonna bring Doug into it, and Doug's, oh my God,
we're gonna.
It's gonna be like a 3-hour. We're only gonna talk about 2 movies.
3-hour shit fest on just why these movies are garbage compared to the.
Like, so, like to further cement it, like a few hours later, you know, Peter comes home and like Uncle Ben and Aunt May bought him a microscope, which this microscope actually comes back a lot in the comics. Like, I think Peter put the microscope on like Ben's grave at one point, and like some like some guy that like runs the cemetery is like, oh, I'm gonna give this to my kid, and like it's supposed to be like this big emotional thing where like that gift that Uncle Ben gave Peter got passed on to someone else.
Yeah.
And they've also kind of retconned what happened to the microscope, but basically like Peter, like it isn't like how a lot of the movies and some of the later comics are like, nah, Peter comes home from that one moment and Uncle Ben gets shot. This
He's
actually
in the old Acme warehouse.
Well, here it's, which I'm like, oh, good, he's hiding behind one of the Wile E. Coyote's death rays. But basically, like it actually shows that for like a couple weeks, Spider-Man is a sensation on TV.
Slated for a new TV series.
Yeah. I wonder who is going to play him.
That's a good question.
Well, we know who plays him if you watch the original live action show. Whose name I actually forgot. But, and so Peter comes home one night and he finds out that, his uncle had been murdered. And Peter's like, this is actually a trait I think happens a lot with Peter when someone close to him dies.
He just gets pissed?
Yeah.
I mean, that's a pretty solid reaction.
Well, not, but more like this shows like kind of like, because it takes a lot to make Spider-Man mad. But like, when someone like he cares about gets hurt, it's usually when he
just snaps.
Just snaps. That is a normal reaction, but like this becomes like a solidified reaction with Peter for with later tragedies that would follow in his life. And so basically Peter, the cops found had the burglar, and of course he's trapped. And so Peter runs in to get a Spider-Man costume because Aunt May is next door at a neighbor's, which later on this will be retconned as staying at Aunt Anna's because that was where she went.
Which they don't do in the Raimi
Yes.
Because I think it's just that May stays home.
Yeah.
Because they don't.
Well, because there's no
Aunt Anna.
They go with
MJ still lives at her parents.
Yeah, because they go with the ultimate origins for MJ in the movie. But basically, this also technically is where MJ finds out that Peter is Spider-Man, because it's implied she's known Peter as Spider-Man since this moment right here,
Which that shows up during, I think, is it Web Spinners that shows up, or is that Untold Tales of Spider-Man? I think it's Untold.
Untold, because in the original Amazing issue, she never explicitly states when she saw him.
She just says, I know that's...
But in Untold Tales, they explicitly state that MJ has known.
Even then, I think that story's been told a couple times.
Yeah.
I think there's a couple different moments where that's given to.
Yeah, and so basically, Peter's like, well, in that warehouse, he could hold off the cops for hours or days, because like he could just sneak out. It won't hold him off from Spider-Man. And so,
just give me a chance, man. Just give me a chance.
And so Peter's web swings across town, because thanks to his web swing, Peter can get to like one end of New York to the next in like almost no time at all. Which I think actually you can explain.
As somebody who plays the PS4 game, I can vouch.
Well, because like it makes sense, because he literally like throws himself through the air.
Yeah.
And like he is like traversing great amounts of air just by that, and by the fact that his legs can let him leap like huge distances as well. And so, Peter finds the burglar, and we get, which in my opinion is still pretty close to the movie, aside from like what the burglar wears.
Well, and obviously Peter not having the human spider costume.
Yeah.
If we're going by Raimi.
Yeah, we're going by Raimi.
I mean, this is really damn close. And it's almost panel for. I can just see Raimi just going through panel for panel.
Yeah. And so basically he just torments this burglar. Eventually
there's no place on earth where you can hide from me.
Shocker!
Shocker's it.
And then Peter webs the gun on the dude and just beats he hits him with one punch.
Socks him and is like, no.
And then of course the hat comes off the burglar, and
I will say this. This has the eye.
Yeah, this actually
the eye dots, and this doesn't.
Yeah. For those of you who don't know, in this part here, I think Ditko and Stan weren't really sure if they wanted to put like eye dots to kind of give you an idea that like you can see through the pieces to tell what Peter's feeling.
Yeah.
But basically, Peter figures out that this is the man that he could have stopped. And here we come to, in my opinion, what makes the character so memorable, because for all of his great power, one moment of irresponsibility cost him one of the most important people in his life. And that would stick with him for the rest of his days. And it's of course his uncle's famous words. which has been shortened to with great power comes great responsibility, it is actually a lot longer. Basically, what his uncle, I'll just read it as Peter walks away. And as a lean, silent figure slowly fades into the gathering darkness, aware at last that in this world, with great power, there must also come great responsibility. You know, the idea that, like, it's not just with great power comes great responsibility, it's if you have the ability to do great and amazing things.
You not only have
the
the responsibility, you have an obligation.
Yeah.
Like, so we're just going with amazing again.
Yeah. Because, like, and to be fair, like, I think that works a little bit better than just him stating the line. I mean, granted, I like the Rainy version, but like there, it's more like it gets across what that means. That if you have these amazing abilities, you don't use them in service to yourself. You use them in service to others, which I think is what makes the character so great. Would you agree? You stop looking at the mummy.
I'm not looking at the moment. I'm reading this other bullshit that's in this. This dude ringing the bells and then getting taken by God up in a fucking shaft. Like, what the fuck is that? And it's got Stan and Ditko's. I think it was Ditko.
I don't know. It's probably Ditko's Ayn Rand bullshit that he's into.
Yeah, it's just.
It probably
dude dies as the lava kills him, but he's like, no, he's going up to heaven on a beam of light.
It probably has something to do with Ditko's Ayn Rand Atlas Shrugged bullshit.
No, the mummy one's great though, because like it's this dude running from the cops, okay? And this mummy comes alive and he's like, fear not, mortal, hide in my fucking casket and you'll be safe. He does, but motherfucker, this is the best part. He's back in time. What the fuck? What kind of a plot twist is that?
Well, I'll give you credit. That is an amazing fantasy. And then the fucking Martian, which is probably a fucking Red Scare reference.
No, it's that the dude's like, the hounds, they've got my wife. They know she's a Martian. Now they're going to come for me. I'm like, what is this?
But
so, I can kind of see why they don't reprint that shit
yeah,
here.
So what are your thoughts on Amazing Fantasy 15 after we...
Because honestly, to me, it's an absolute classic comic to me. Like, I know, like, you know, it has a lot of things like we joke about, you know, because we've seen it like in the Raimi movies and we've seen it in the Amazing Spider-Man movies and we've seen it in the animated series and we've seen it in the games. It's like, we've seen this origin story time and time again, but something about the comic to me, like it never gets old.
Yeah,
you know?
it really never does.
Every time I've ever read it, it just feels fresh.
Yeah, you know, and as much as I made jokes about some of the dated stuff, like, it doesn't really contract from it.
Yeah.
Like, yeah, the open air radiation thing is kind of bullshit, but like, at the same time, like, how else would he get those powers from a spider?
Yeah.
Like I know we were always like,
with the ultimate.
yeah, the genetic super spiders, but like even there, I'm like, so what exactly does that mean that it's been genetically altered? Are you saying like through chemicals, and that the chemicals somehow give it the ability to transfer those powers to people? Like,
yeah,
what are we going here? Now, there actually is a sequel to this story where Spider-Man returns to fight the burglar again.
That's issue 200.
Yep,
amazing,
issue 200.
Right? Which you and I both have.
Yeah, not only do I have the issue, in Marvel Essentials number 9, they actually reprinted the issue. Basically, because this video's going on pretty long anyways.
See, it actually reveals that it's actually Sandman who's involved.
No.
I don't expect you to forgive me. I just
Actually,
want you to understand.
If I remember correctly, I think he's actually involved with Mysterio. Because basically there's this storyline where...
so now it's Mysterio, but that can't be real because Mysterio is a hero. We went over this.
Can you believe this motherfucker? But anyway,
fucking gas.
No, we were sitting in the theater.
We told that story so many times, but it still makes me fucking laugh.
No, we were sitting in that
how
theater.
Do you not know? He's lying.
And Spider-Man Far From Home, someone literally gasped at the reveal that Mysterio was not actually a good guy.
I'm like, guys, I think I even said, read a fucking comic book.
I'm like, he's in purple and green.
Somebody was pissed at us after that movie. I remember that. Somebody was pissed, like wanting to know who said that. And I was like,
yeah, no, which I kept you quiet because I'm like, we're not getting in a fight.
I was like, you know what I fucking said. You know what I said.
I know, and I'm like, we're not getting in a fight.
Fucking comic, get educated.
But like that, like, look at him. He's in green, purple, and gold.
Nobody wears green and is a good person.
Yeah, like, and people are gonna be like, well, the Prowler. I'm like, he was a villain originally.
The Hulk, the Hulk is a special case.
Well, then, like,
even then, he was gray originally, so that don't count.
Like, the Hulk isn't really a superhero, nor is he a villain. He's just a victim of tragic circumstance. But basically, Aunt May could no longer afford to live in the house that her and Peter lived in. I want to say that was actually Bupkis that Mysterio simply made it seem that way and forced her into a retirement home that he was running as a scheme. Because Mysterio's kind of lame, as much as I love Mysterio. And so, this is because him and the burglar, as in the burglar from Amazing 15, like the whole reason the burglar was trying to break into Aunt May and Uncle Ben's home is because he believed that there was gangster gold hidden somewhere in the house. I'm not fucking kidding.
Mysterio, this is why nobody takes you seriously.
Well, because the burglar told him, and Mysterio being Mysterio's like, well, you know, it's not, it's really because he was going to just kill the dude after he found the gold. And so, Mysterio to further cement, like, because, like, basically they were afraid that the home would go to Peter because when she died. So, I want to say, like, through, like, either trickery or forging documents, they, fake Aunt May's death. They make Peter believe that she died. And then write it that the house now belongs to the retirement home. Well, first, Peter's so emotionally distraught that Aunt May is gone. He's like just mopey and sad and just wanders around.
Gwen and MJ both are like, oh, not this shit again.
Basically. And then Peter's like, I just don't understand because she was doing so perfectly Wait a fucking minute. I remember the name of that retirement guy. Damn it, it was Mysterio. Like Peter's so mad, he's like, I was fucking duped by Mysterio.
I'm gonna beat the shit out of him.
No, that basically is what he does, because he breaks into this retirement home. There's a scene where he thinks he's being drowned in the pool at the retirement home. He's like, oh God, I can't breathe. Like, wait a minute. If I'm really drowning, why isn't my spider sense going off? It's an illusion.
Like, damn it, that ain't fair.
Which, I love old Mysterio versus Spider-Man fights, but there are so many times
Peter's just like, wait a fucking minute, this is bullshit.
It's like, my spider sense didn't go off, and I'm like, like, come on, Peter.
Yeah.
But basically, after Peter beats the shit out of Mysterio and leaves him for the cops, he finds out that Aunt May is, of course, alive, and the burglar has kidnapped her. So Peter confronts... I think he actually takes her to the Acme warehouse he was holed up in before. And so, Peter, as Spider-Man, storms into this building and just chases and torments the shit out of this motherfucker. He's like, what are you doing? Why are you after me? It's just an old lady. And so Peter, having finally cornered him, he's like, you want to know why? Because that woman and that man you killed were my uncle and aunt. And the burglar's like...
Yeah, he has a heart attack in his eyes.
No, he's so afraid. He has a heart... Which, at this point, Peter suddenly is like, oh my God, you're so pathetic. I actually feel kind of bad for you. I caused this man's heart attack. Well, it's more because he knew Peter's secret identity, so by all rights, he has to die now.
Yeah.
And it ends really great because this is actually where they end the whole Aunt May is afraid of Spider-Man thing, because Spider-Man, comes to her, he's like, I'm not a bad guy. Your nephew and I are good friends, and he's worried about you. He wants me to bring you home. And it's this great moment where basically Aunt May finally puts her trust into Spider-Man. And we actually get a little bit of Aunt May taking the grief off of Peter, because Peter finally admits, like, I just feel so bad, Aunt May, because if I were there, I could have, stopped the burglar or something. Like, basically she points out, the burglar, it just happened.
Stuff like this happens.
And, it's one of those moments where Peter actually kind of, because he'll always feel guilty about what happened to Uncle Ben, but at the same time, Aunt May, kind of assuages the grief about it. She's like, it would have happened one way or another even if you had been there, Peter. Especially because Uncle Ben, tries to rush the dude, and the dude, in a panic, shoots him.
Just shoots him.
But, and of course, that would have ramifications because in the Clone Saga, not the original, the other Clone Saga, Ben starts dating a mysterious woman. She's the daughter of the burglar. And she wants revenge on Spider-Man for killing her.
This is more shit that it's like, why?
Because soap opera. But I just kind of wanted to bring that up because like this issue still has ramifications even today. There was ramifications for it when Aunt May finally found out Peter was Spider-Man, which there they write that Peter or Uncle Ben and Aunt May had an argument and he walked off and got shot that way, like a dog. They kind of treat it like, a dog that, was dying and it ran away and we never saw it again, which I'm like, wow. But anyway, like I said, this issue will always be, in my opinion,
This is one of the cornerstones of comics.
Yeah. Wait, because people, like one of the arguments you and I don't like about the MCU Spider-Man is just the fact that, they just gloss over Uncle Ben. And I'm like, that doesn't really work, though, because he is so much of what makes Peter who he is.
Yeah.
And that tragedy is why Peter has the great power comes great responsibility thing.
The argument I always hear come up to that where it's like, well, I don't want to see Uncle Ben get shot again. It's like,
you don't have to.
You don't want to see Bruce Wayne's parents get fucking murdered, but guess what? We've seen it 1,000 times.
Well, not only that,
get over it.
You know what? It's a great movie that brings up Uncle Ben and doesn't show him getting shot? Into the Spider-Verse. They talk about how every one of them has an authority figure that they cared about, and they died.
The animated series does that too.
The animated series does that. We don't see the death, which, granted, that was more because of standards and practices for children's shows at the time, but, even Spectacular, we don't even get, the origin at all. They just bring it up about Uncle Ben dying, and later on, when he comes back as a manifestation of Peter's consciousness when he's trying to free himself from the symbiote in that show. You don't need to show him get shot. You just need to bring up Uncle Ben.
Yeah, just acknowledge
because
it.
he is important to Peter's who he is. Without Uncle Ben, there is no Spider-Man.
Exactly.
And without Uncle Ben, there's no good side dishes with your chicken. But anyway, before we close, I just want to think. Do you think this is better or not to Detective 27? Just kind of if we were comparing origins.
I honestly think this is better. To me, it's always been a little bit more enjoyable. I mean, that's obviously taking my own bias into account, but
especially because the origin isn't even in 27. That came much later. In fact, I want to say that didn't come up until Batman #1.
Yeah.
And by that point, Batman was 30 issues. Detective Comics was 30 issues in. And especially because this one at least has so much more emotional depth to it than that story. And in my opinion, I think Marvel has a lot better origins for their characters in certain ways. Not always. I like Batman and Superman's origins just fine. It's just Batman's origin, in my opinion, didn't become important until, I want to say the 80s when Frank Miller wrote it, as much as I'd like to not say. Well, that and Denny O'Neil, because Denny O'Neil is awesome and doesn't get enough credit. But yeah, I would definitely say this is probably better than Action 27. It's probably better than Detective 27. I'd actually argue it's probably better than Action number 1. But to be fair, that's kind of unfair because Action number 1 is literally the first superhero origin story ever.
yeah.
But yeah, no, I think this holds up really, really well, and I think we will be doing this a lot more. For example, I want to do Iron Man's origin just because I want to do a lot more Iron Man stuff just because I like Iron Man.
Yeah.
But, all in all, I think that really sums up our feelings on the story, If you want to get a copy of it, it's easy to find. Pretty much.
It's in the Epic collection. If you get the Omnibus, which recently was reprinted, the Marvel hardback Omnibus series, which I buy, has it. Pretty sure you can just, it's in the Essential. I mean, it's reprinted.
It's reprinted everywhere. I think you can even just find reprintings of this on Amazon. If you type in Action 15, you can probably find
get it
reissues.
online easily too.
There was a really cool one I liked. I think it was called Marvel Presents the 60s. And it literally just does best issues of stuff from the 60s, which this is in there. And in fact, I want to say yours is actually the better recolored version that was in that one.
Probably.
Mine was probably from the Essential, well, not the Essentials, but the Epic collection, which the color can be not very good. But yeah, no, if you can find it, it's easily available. There are so many ways to find it. But yeah, I think that's gonna wrap this episode of Remember the Hyphen up pretty nicely. Come back next week. We've got more Spider-Man planned for wherever we come up with next. But until then, guys, I'm Zangetsu134.
And I'm Average Joe Squad.
And as always, we ask you
to remember the hyphen
and take care.